Hi friends! This week I'm going to do a few more pages in my Create This book. I've gotten through about half of the book doing easier pages, so now I'm going to get into the more open-ended and complicated ones. The first page I'm going to do is this one that says, create a page for your favorite character. Choose one of your favorite cartoon characters. Draw him or her on this page. Now I, like just about every other human on the planet, am obsessed with Encanto. Being a teacher, we listen to the soundtrack at least once a day. I really love Luisa, but I'm choosing to draw Mirabel because I feel like I identify with her more. She doesn't really feel special in any way, but she puts a lot of value in her family and always wants to be there to support other people. I was really scared to attempt this because I pretty much never draw people, and I never draw specific characters like this. Because it's a recognizable character, it's so much more obvious when you don't get it right. But I'm trying to push myself past my art fear more and more, so I just try to tell myself that I can just keep erasing until I get it right. I looked at a ton of reference pictures online and kept zooming in and out on my phone and trying to break everything down into simpler shapes. I worked so hard and I was so proud of myself after the sketch. It came out so much better than I expected. I may have taken pictures of it and sent it to all of my friends. For the other page, I didn't want to do anything too complicated, so I started drawing a bunch of little shapes that show up a lot in the movie. Like weights, butterflies, a chameleon? I swear that's a chameleon. You can even see me looking at references on my phone. But after all that sketching, I hated it. It just didn't look right to me. So instead, I looked up an Encanto font and spelled out Mirabel. Then I just planned out some little doodles around the outside. Using some micron fine liners, I did the line work, and then I erased all of the pencil lines. I used a kneaded eraser for the second page because I just wanted to pull up most of the pencil, but still keep enough that I could see my sketch. I was loving this so much so far that I was terrified to color it in. I worry a lot about coloring in sketches that I love because I'm always afraid of ruining them. But I worried even more about this one because she's an established character. What if I don't get the colors right? I started with her clothes because I figured that's the easiest, and it hopefully won't be as noticeable if it's a shade off or something. I still spent a lot of time looking at references and swatching colors, and I did her skin next, which just looks so wrong to me. I swear I held the picture up next to the swatch, but she's so orange. She looks like a Muppet. I'm not gonna leave it like that though. I am going to try to add some shading and blending with colored pencils. For her hair, I went with a gray so that when I color over it with really dark grays and blacks, I can just leave a few areas with the marker showing through for highlights. Now, going in with the colored pencils, I tried to sharpen up the embroidery on her clothes where the marker had bled a little. And I tried to add a bit more green to her skirt because I felt like the color was still off. I did something to the butterfly that doesn't seem to make a difference. Now I can put it off no longer. Time to work on the skin. I added lighter and darker colors to make highlights and shadows. Then I used a blender pencil to blend it out a bit. I think maybe I needed to be a little bit more aggressive with the colors I chose, because I feel like the shading is just too subtle. She's still looking a little orangier than I remember. I repeated the same process with her hair, but this was a bit harder to figure out where the highlights would be since her hair is curly. After all of that, I used a black pencil to darken up any lines that got colored over, and I used a white gel pen to touch up any places where the marker bled too much. On the other page, I just sort of quickly and loosely drew the little doodles using colors that were in Mirabelle's clothes. I went over the doodles with colored pencil to sharpen them up and try to fix any wonky lines. Finally, I used a nice coat of matte Mod Podge to seal it all in. I decided to leave the background blank on this page because I didn't want to try and go around all of those little doodles. I'm actually really happy with this page, and I feel like I could venture into slightly harder drawings in the future. The next page I'm going to do says, create a growth chart. Figure out a way to show some kind of growing process. Because this page is on the back of my nail polish collection page, it's pretty lumpy, so I'm going to do this on a separate piece of paper. I folded a piece of printer paper in half and drew a little outline around the instructions. I'm using a ruler for this sketch because even though the page is about growth, I want this base shape to be all the same size. You might have guessed that this shape is a cupcake liner. The growth is going to be the toppings added to the cupcake. The first is the basic cupcake, then we add frosting, a cherry, and finally sprinkles. After my Mirabelle page, I was feeling a bit more confident, so I decided to try and draw realistic cupcakes. Sort of. So instead of outlining the drawings, I erased most of the pencil so I could just barely see it. For each different section, I chose a light, medium, and dark color to sort of lay down the basic highlights and shadows. Then I spent a long time adding layers and using a blending pencil, trying to not only get it to look realistic, but also to look the same on all of them. No matter how many times I tried to adjust this, the frosting just looks different on every single one. I wanted a soft background, so I used pastel pencils to add blobs of color and blend them out. I coated this in matte Mod Podge and let it dry before I added it to the book. This way it would go in smoother and not be as lumpy. Overall, I like this page. I do think I need a bit more practice with realistic drawing before it actually looks realistic, but it's just so hard to give up my more cartoony style. Speaking of a cartoony style, the last page I'm going to do says, create a pair, draw a set of twins. For this page, I decided to do a set of panda bears. Don't ask me why, but the second I read the prompt, I wanted to draw panda bears. Since this is the third page I'm doing, I really wanted to do something simple and fun. So I did choose to outline these bears with fine liners. Even though these two bears are twins, they aren't identical twins. They're fraternal twins. That's the opposite of identical, right? Yeah. Not only are they fraternal twins, they're pastel fraternal twins. One is purple and one is teal. I used a slightly darker color of each for the blocky shadows. I used the white gel pen again for the highlights. And I didn't feel like coloring the whole background, but I also didn't want them floating in space. so I gave them some nice floor, shadow, flying carpet things under their butts. All that's left to do is seal them in. This page came out really simple, and maybe if it had been the first page I'd worked on, I would have done something more complicated. But it was a nice way to end this collection of pages, and I still think it's pretty cute. That's all for this week. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.